Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Now, you've heard, seen, and read so much about the life of Sheila Dikshit that you might wonder what is there for me now to declutter about the Sheila Dikshit story. So, let me address it a bit differently. Let me use the Sheila Dikshit story, one, to declutter the story of city governance in India, and second, once again, to declutter the story of Congress's own politics. Now, Sheila Dikshit was always a prominent Congress leader. We know that. She lost her husband very early. Her father-in-law was a very prominent Congress leader from UP, Umashankar Dikshit. He was in fact the Home Minister of India under Indira Gandhi. So when her husband, who was an IAS officer, passed away, the father-in-law drafted her into politics, etc., etc. Those things we know well. Now, when did she hit national limelight? Not even when she rebelled against Narasimha Rao and went off to found Congress Tiwari, as it was called, with Narayan Dutt Tiwari, Arjun Singh, Rangarajan Kumar Mangalam, Natwar Singh, and many others, people who were disillusioned with Narasimha Rao, particularly after Babri Masjid. Of those, everybody came back to the Congress party except one, Rangarajan Kumar Mangalam, who ended up in the BJP. So there she was one of the key people, but not the key person. She came into the national limelight in an election which I think defined or redefined Indian politics from then on. And why do I say so? Why do I say that election of 2003, assembly election in Delhi, redefined national politics? Because that election showed us a very interesting new turn in Indian politics. That's when three states in India, three major Hindi heartland states, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, also went for the polls. In all three, Congress was the incumbent. Congress got defeated big time. Congress got wiped out. In fact, Congress got defeated so badly in all three that encouraged BJP to think of advancing national elections, which they did in the coming year. In 2004, they advanced national elections by about 6 months. The rest is history, as they say. But one state stood out against that principle, because you would have thought that this is anti-incumbency. Incumbents lose, because Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, all three had Congress incumbents, so they lost. But in that massive wave of anti-incumbency, when Vajpayee was so popular, at the peak of his popularity, BJP was in power in Delhi, one state bucked the trend, and that state was Delhi. 2003 elections, Sheila Dikshit came back to power. She had taken power in Delhi in 1998 after several BJP stalwarts failed, Madanlal Khurana, Sahib Singh Verma, Sushma Swaraj. She had taken power after them in 98. 52 seats she got in 98 out of 70. She came back again in 2003 with 47 seats. Very well done. So she defied anti-incumbency at a time when three other chief ministers did not. So why do we say that redefined Indian politics? Because anti-incumbency until then had become the norm in Indian politics. Nearly 80% of incumbents used to get defeated. In 2003, by getting re-elected with a very healthy majority with the BJP in power in Delhi, she proved that if you perform, if people see the results of what you've done, then people will elect you, defying anti-incumbency. And that then instigated or inspired people like me to start saying this India is becoming aspirational, and this voter is now becoming more questioning, more thinking, not just driven by one hawa of this kind or one hawa of that kind. So the same voter who votes in Delhi, it's people from Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, UP, Bihar. There really is no original Delhi wala. So if the same people were following anti-incumbency so strongly in their home states, but defying anti-incumbency in Delhi and re-electing somebody with a very robust majority, that showed that this generation of Indian voters now has matured and they will reward performance. And then we saw more of that going ahead, and you found that anti-incumbency across the country began to change. And Delhi then, her success inspired many other chief ministers also to think that, look, if I perform, I will get re-elected. And that turned that complete defeat every incumbent mood among Indian electorate. Since then, more incumbents have got elected than defeated, at least for the second time. And then she repeated that success. In 2008, she came back to power yet again, 42 seats out of 70, 5 less than the previous time, but more than good enough. So 3 terms she won in Delhi at a time when her party was not exactly growing elsewhere. Why did that happen? Because she governed Delhi as nobody had governed Delhi until then. And you really never heard her make many excuses. So that is the part on city governance. Let me elaborate on this. Just imagine, I've lived in Delhi now since 1983. Just imagine, when I go back and think, what was Delhi like when Sheila Dikshit first took over? Forget the fact that there was no metro, there were none of these big flyovers, there was no new airport in Delhi. There were many other problems in Delhi. Delhi used to have power breaks down all the time. All the time. Delhi had an electricity board which was completely bankrupted, where in fact to pay the bill, you were expected to pay a bribe, because otherwise the lineman or the inspector would say, where is the need to pay a bill? Give me 1,000 rupees every month. You will never get a bill. But if you insisted on paying a bill, they thought that maybe you have pressure on you to pay a bill. They would want a 100 rupee bribe to pay a bill. So she privatized Delhi's power distribution. She brought in new universities in Delhi. She expanded many of Delhi government's hospitals, for which she is given inadequate credit. She brought in CNG in Delhi's public transport. Big improvement, and quality of air also improved for some time in Delhi. Until then, saturation came in, and once again, nobody would give her credit for that because Commonwealth Games became so controversial. But the fact is that she ran those Commonwealth Games. She managed them in spite of all the challenges in a way that would make India proud and that would make Delhi proud, and used that opportunity to build a lot of infrastructure. Use that money to fund power plants which would supply power only to Delhi, exclusively for Delhi. Almost all the buses you see on the streets of Delhi, in fact too few right now. When she demitted office, there were nearly 9,000 buses, now they're just over 4,000. But all the buses you see, particularly air-conditioned buses. Until she started this and she used Commonwealth Games money to buy these buses, Delhi did not have any public buses that provided air-conditioned comfort to commuters. So she bought more than 3,000 buses in that phase. So she revolutionized Delhi in many ways, and she was available. Now, how did she do that, and why is she so significant, and her approach so significant? Congress's manifesto in this election said that they believed in making our cities, big cities, autonomous under autonomous mayors. Now that's been a dream for a long time of many politicians and planners, but nobody is allowed to do it because our politicians don't want to let go of the big cities. For example, Maharashtra politicians will never let Bombay be free. Karnataka politicians will never let Bangalore be free. West Bengal politicians will never let Calcutta be free. Can you imagine if these cities had empowered mayors who did not have to worry about state politics? What will those cities be like? But Delhi does not have that problem. Delhi doesn't belong to a state. Delhi may be a quasi-city state, but it does not belong to a larger state. So she was able to use that as a strength and pretty much mold herself into a kind of mayor in Delhi. And like a good mayor, she was always accessible to all kinds of people. She was the most accessible leader that people of Delhi had seen. Now, she lost in 2013. By that time, her party was in a bad way. She also took a lot of flack for Commonwealth Games. There were many corruption charges, particularly thrown at her by Kejriwal, who now has said very nice things about her. Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party, but before that also the Anna movement. And she suffered there. And in that process, Congress party also disowned her to a great extent. And that's what I meant when I said this also, I will also use it to declutter how the Congress party thinks. So what happens in the Congress party is it runs so feudally that for some reason at that point when there were so many allegations against UPA government at the center and in Delhi and over Commonwealth Games, Rahul Gandhi, it's quite evident, began to distance himself from his party and his government, and he thought they were doing many things wrong. In fact, it looks like he was impressed by many of those allegations. And that's when he began to distance himself from Sheila Dikshit as well. While there was a lot of personal warmth and understanding and respect, but politically, he began to lean more towards Ajay Makan. And that's when Sheila Dikshit felt left out, and she was left out. But once again, when chips were down, you know the history of she getting defeated by Kejriwal and the rest, but when chips were down, and the Congress really needed a leader in UP, or maybe a Balika Bakra, a sacrificial lamb, who would they go to? They still had only Sheila Dikshit, a woman who could give them 3 terms in power in Delhi, was also seen as their answer to their problems in UP at that age, at the age of 79, 80. So she was initially projected as Congress party's chief ministerial candidate in UP. It did not work. She was yanked back, and then in this state of health, she was made to contest elections in Delhi, in parliament. And there again, she did not take it lightly. She was in deep distress because she was now living in a house that doesn't have a lift, an elevator. Her body didn't allow her to climb up and down all the time. She could barely manage it once in a day, but when she was campaigning, she might have to do it many times in the day. But she campaigned, and remember, she finished a very respectable second with a large number of votes, way ahead of the Aam Aadmi Party candidate. So to that extent, that was her vindication, but that was her vindication personally vis-a-vis Aam Aadmi Party, but it was also her vindication vis-a-vis her own party, that her own party had made a mistake by dumping her, choosing somebody else, Ajay Makan, who wasn't able to deliver. Then her party went back to her, and in fact, even until her last day, she was fighting another internal battle in the party with PC Chako, who's her party's in charge for the state of Delhi. So that tells you how the Congress party works. Congress party has had very few leaders left now, besides the Gandhi family. She was among the very last. She was from the generation of long marchers of Indian politics from the Congress party. But she was still very popular, unlike some of the others who now become outsiders to their own states, cannot win elections in their own states. That's true of almost everybody of any seniority in the Congress party. But if you were at her funeral today, as I was, I would say, and I say it after a great deal of reflection and thinking, that this was the biggest political funeral for a Congress leader in Delhi since Rajiv Gandhi's. And that was 1991. That was 28 long years ago. In fact, as I look back, I don't remember any other political funeral with this kind of passion from the people present there, except maybe Atal Bihari Vajpayee's. Okay, it wasn't a funeral that marched down the streets of Delhi, but just at the cremation ground. And I think that was a tribute to her. And I will tell you one more thing. I was there in the rain, drenched, by the end of it standing in nearly knee-deep water at Nigam Bodh Ghat in Delhi. And there were many slogans. The slogan you heard most of all was, "Jab tak suraj chand rahega, Sheila tera naam rahega." That is the slogan that Congress crowds used to shout for Indira Gandhi, then Rajiv Gandhi. But all of the morning, there was nothing about the Congress party. There was nothing about any other leader of the Congress party. I do not believe that the Congress party today has any leader left, except maybe Amrinder Singh in Punjab, who would command that kind of popularity with her people. So the lesson for the Congress party is that if they had only valued their leaders other than the Gandhis, who had a connect with people, who had popular support, who could run their own politics autonomously, win elections of their own, if the Congress party had been kinder to them, had been more generous to them, the party would not have been in this situation as it is today. So Sheila Dikshit's death should also provide Congress leaders, the Gandhi family in particular, now to reflect and maybe carry out a big course correction. Because a party ultimately, it may have a big strong leader. BJP now has that issue, Narendra Modi. But until it has many of these lieutenant generals, besides a field marshal sitting someplace, it cannot win elections. And definitely, it cannot recover from a position of adversity, which is where the Congress now finds itself. So this is my brief insight, one, on the way our cities are run and how Sheila Dikshit showed us cities could be governed better. In fact, it's a misfortune of Bombay and Calcutta and Bangalore. They did not have a Sheila Dikshit, but they are not city-states, unfortunately. They are colonies of their large states. And second, what it tells us about the Congress party. So if you like this, and I know a lot of you are watching Cut the Clutter and watching our YouTube channel, please do subscribe and please do tell your friends and family to do so also. We are now expanding big time on YouTube in English as well as Hindi. So please do keep track and do subscribe.